You are.
And we are now recording. Okay, I'm going to start from the very beginning. Okay, there it is. All right, hello, this is Amy Thomas. I'm here to talk about the Sensory Learning Program. This is a fast, natural solution to behavior issues. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I got started. All right, this is Maggie. She had come in and we had done vision therapy on her, and she kept getting anxious. So every time I asked her to do something, she'd get so worked up and it'd take her forever to get done, right? And then I would tell her to do something and she'd forget what I said. And she'd lose her concentration. And she'd just get all wrapped around the axle. So I decided to put her through passive therapy with the lenses to help guide her brain that way. And she didn't like the feel of them on her face because they made her face kind of sensitive. And then I did Syntonics, so that's colored light to help guide her brain that way. And that was too boring. So that's where I did a lot of research, and I found this sensory learning program. So I think you're going to love it. I did. I've actually put her through twice. I put myself through 6 times. It's fun stuff, and I will let you know all the cool things that happen. Okay. All right. Okay. So I have to admit people. All right, I'm going to the next one. Or not. All right, if you can stick around till the very end, there's going to be a mystery prize at the end. Exciting stuff. You're not going to want to miss this, okay? So stick around. Now, just to make sure you're in the right place, I'm going to tell you all the type of people that would benefit from this program that I'm talking about. So some common thoughts from those experiencing sensory problems. Oh, he's so overwhelmed in noisy environments like the school cafeteria. In fact, he won't even go to the school cafeteria. She's so distractible, we just need to find a way to increase her attention span. We need to figure out how to decrease his anxiety level. Or something's just not connecting for him. We can't get those dots put together. All right, for this one, these are a lot of the parents that I get to work with. They come in and they are tired. Their kids aren't sleeping, so they're not sleeping. The kids don't like to sleep in their own bedrooms, so when the parents do get a chance to sleep, it's not well rested because the kid's kicking them in the middle of the night. They tend to be really frustrated because their kids won't eat any healthy food. They'll only go for the French fries and chicken nuggets because all the other textures, all the other smells, tastes, and all that are just too much for them. They're really frustrated that their kids can't handle change so well. So if they want to do anything different, they have to let the kid know a couple weeks ahead of time, or they're going to have a full temper tantrum when they change anything. These guys are really worried because they can't get their kids to sit still and do their homework, and they always have to be sitting next to these kids helping them do it. And they're worried that the kids are going to be like that the rest of their lives and they won't have any independence. They tend to be pretty hopeless, especially when they find out that all their stuff gets wrecked a lot of the time. They leave the room for about 30 seconds. Their kid likes to decorate things with stuff like fingernail polish. They like to get the scissors out. They like to jump off of things, so a lot of ER visits. Or the kids just won't do anything. They're too scared to do anything. And then helpless because they have things like night terrors. The parents have no idea what to do. Not a lot of medications help it. They don't understand what's causing it, so a lot of times they can't help it. So these guys, they have no idea what to do, and they're looking for answers. A lot of the labels that these kids get, or even the parents themselves, ADD, ADHD, they can be really, really anxious, learning disabilities, autism, Asperger's, acquired brain injury, developmental delay, auditory processing disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and my favorite, PDD-NOS, which is just the word for they have no idea what it is, but they got to call it something. So all of these, if you look at the basic underlying root causes, it's a sensory integration issue. And if you can get those senses put back into place, you're going to notice a lot of the symptoms and even quite a few of these titles tend to fall away. All right, so for those that like research, I'm going to throw some research in here. For the autistic population, they've done quite a few studies where they got to do some brain scans. And I'm still trying to figure out how they got the kids to sit still for this, but they made it work. And what they found was in these autistic kids, these kids did a great job of connecting all these little neighborhoods within the brain, these little tiny areas. But these neighborhoods weren't able to connect to the larger neighborhoods. So they would end up getting stuck in certain little areas of their brain and not be able to get out. So that's where you end up seeing a lot of the repetitive patterns and problems with change. So here they are, they got all these connections, but quite a few of them aren't where they need them to be. So you're going to see them extra perseverating, they're going to be hyper-focused, all that kind of thing. And I know how to make long-range connections, so stay tuned. All right, so what happens when they get stuck? Everything's going to depend on the personality of the kid, right? If they prefer one side of their brain more than the other, they're going to pull that way. So say somebody who really, really likes their left brain. Left brain is that language, logic, everything has to be perfect. These guys are going to be analytical, sometimes overly analytical, very literal, task-oriented, forget about the fun stuff. Time, everything is going to be time-based. They're going to have very, very focused attention for short periods of time, and then they're off. The squirrel's got them. They really like rules. They like things to be in a certain sequence, or bad things will happen. And they love to talk if they're verbal. They love to talk, but they can't seem to find the point. So they're going to just be chatting all the time, and you just like, okay, what do you really want? What's your question? Just give me one question. And 2 hours later, you get the question. Now, if they turn out to be right brain type, then they tend to be very good with empathy and social skills, but they are very, very scattered. They can't seem to get it together. They tend to be creative, really good with space, not so good with time. They tend to be overly aware of themselves. And the left brain tends to be underly aware of themselves. Right brain likes the big picture. They tend to love to do everything all at once and think that they can finish everything in about 2 minutes. So it causes a lot of chaos. And they tend to be really good with singing. They sing at the tone that they first hear it. And they tend to do really well with learning new languages and intonations. But boy, do they have problems with remembering details about it. Okay, so where does sensory stimulation actually begin? It begins almost right away. A lot of times you're getting all this stuff. You've got all these nutrients coming in, the blood flow, you've got stimulation because mom's walking. All of these things are extremely important for the development of the brain. And if any of these get missed, that's where you have problems. So how are sensory skills typically learned? Through trial and error. But we are born with something called reflexes, developmental reflexes that help guide our brain to learn what we need to learn. So we call them the milestones. So tummy time, army crawl, creeping on all fours, all of those help guide our brain, guide our vision, guide our hearing to learn how to take things and work with them like you're supposed to. All right, so all of those things are very, very necessary to getting the good stuff, okay? So for little things like math, reading, writing, speaking, communicating effectively, all of those things, you need the basic foundation. And that basic foundation is something I can actually show you how to do if you wait till the very end. So the 3 big senses that tend to play a huge role in this are the visual, the auditory, and the vestibular, or the balance centers. When those guys can become integrated and speak as one, then all of a sudden your brain can start to flow like it needs to. Now here's just another way of saying the same thing, but different skills. All right, so you start out in the very, very left-hand side right there. You got vestibular, proprioceptive, which is knowing where your body parts are. Touch, seeing, hearing, you name it. All of those have to come online. They got to try to match each other. And then you can start to plan around them. And then you can actually act around them. To get to the point where you need to be able to concentrate, to organize, to actually have good self-esteem because you're actually aware of who you are and where you are, to have more self-confidence, to be able to learn easily, to be able to think abstractly, and just to be able to know rights, lefts, letters, that type of thing. So what could cause a problem? I kind of hinted at this one. A lot of them start out just because mom's on bed rest. So when mom's on bed rest, she's not doing a lot of walking. That walking is supposed to be able to provide this vestibular input, this balance. So the kid knows where gravity is, where up is. It also gives a sense of rhythm and timing so that the brain can start to put things together at the same pace. Now, a lot of times the mom's stressed out. So when she's stressed out, she's going to be sending out a lot of adrenaline, a lot of cortisol. When that hits the baby's brain, even before they're born, they're going to think something dangerous is out there waiting for them. So they're going to go through the milestones as fast as they can so they can get up and start running as fast as they possibly can, because they think there's a tiger out there that wants to eat them. All right, illnesses can cause problems, inflammation from the illnesses, medications. Okay, so if a kid is having problems with fight or flight, they're not detoxing. A lot of these medications end up sticking in their brain and staying there and working in the wrong direction. Premature birth, that was me. I was born a little earlier than I was supposed to, so I was not ready for that big bad world right there. So everything hurt, at least my mom says. So she kept me on her hip for about 9 months, or I'd scream like a little banshee, because she was safe. She was able to protect me from the extra senses that were bugging me. Problems with oxygen, you name it, any problems with pregnancy, birth, anything like that can cause problems with the senses integrating. All right, other things that can cause it, developmental delays. A lot of times people think that if they get a genetic finding, so say their kid has Down syndrome, or they found out, oh yeah, their kid has autism, that doesn't mean they're stuck there. There's always things that the brain can do to learn more, to be able to integrate further and help get the person more comfortable. All right, there's that missed milestones again. And it can be anything. I'm not kidding. I had a couple patients because they moved. The kid was stressed out. The kid had been in those bucket seats that you take out of the car, you sit on the floor. You put them back in the car. The kid never walked, the kid never crawled, all that kind of stuff. So all those milestones were missed. Little things like ear infections, stomach problems, just not practicing what you got. All of those things can cause problems with the integration. And there's more. All right, environmental influences. So yet again, because they're in fight or flight, they can't detox so well. So this stuff is stuck in their system. You can get things like pesticides and herbicides, food dyes, preservatives, medications, anesthesias. If you just Google anesthesia and development, you're going to come across a whole bunch of studies that say, if you don't have to do a surgery early, try not to, because this stuff gets stuck in their brain and it actually causes hiccups in development. Other reasons, we've got trauma, and it's not just physical trauma. I'm not kidding. I've had some patients. One patient was left alone with her dad for 1 hour. Her mom had never left her alone otherwise. 1 hour with the dad. He was supposed to babysit her. And they ended up at the ER because he screwed something up. So now everything's unsafe. She's back in fight or flight. They're having lots of problems. I know how to help knock that out, so stay tuned. All right, some observable behaviors. This is all going to depend on the personality of the person, okay? All right, you're either going to get slow, where it takes them forever to get things done because they want things to be perfect. And then you also have the hyperactive ones. They just want to get everything done, and then they're going to go back and fix everything afterwards or have somebody else fix it for them. The ones that avoid sensory stuff because it really bugs them. The people who actually seek it out, especially if they're in control of it. The ones that are always banging on things, always making loud noises. Yeah. Ones that are hyper-focused, you can't get them off of what they're doing. And the ones that are easily distracted. Some other behaviors you tend to see, unreasonable anxiety. But now that you know all the stuff that's coming at them, it's not that unreasonable, right? Problems with social interactions. They're not understanding social cues. They're not seeing them well. They're not hearing them well. They're not sensing them well. They're not understanding them. And they're definitely not matching them well. So one example is, have you ever tried to watch a movie where the sound was off just a little bit? You notice how hard it was to actually sit and watch that movie for very long? You either had to avert your gaze or you had to just sit and just shut your ears down and watch their lips. That's what these kids are doing every day. So why would they want to do it all the time, right? You're going to see them start to avoid it. These guys tend to feel like a failure because they don't usually do things correctly the first time out the gate, or the third, or the fifth. It's usually about 6th or 7th, and they start to get the hang of stuff. They have difficulty handling transitions. And a lot of the reason for this is the ones that can't connect the dots very well, they actually have to make new rules for them every time there's a new situation. So think about this. If you went to a different park, they now have to think about how they're going to handle this new park. Everything about this new park, the sounds that are going to come at them, the sights that are going to come at them, anything that could try to hurt them, they now have to make a new rule for it. So if they go to a lot of places, that's a lot of rules. It takes a lot of brain space to remember all that stuff. So they tend not to do that. They tend to like to stay in one place and keep it nice and structured. These guys also appear to be disorganized and clumsy because they didn't see that doorway as they walked past it, and they hit their shoulder pretty good. They can't figure out where the dog's coming from, the dog bark is coming from, so sometimes they trip on the dog, all kinds of fun stuff. Okay, so current methods for treating these sensory issues. Discipline, right? If they act up, man, shoot, we should discipline them. We don't want any spoiled kids out there, right? No. These kids don't understand discipline. The reason they're acting up is they're trying to avoid all of these sensations that are causing them grief, that are making them go crazy, right? So they're trying to get out of there. And as they get out of there, they're doing something that somebody else doesn't like, and then they get punished for it. So now they're having problems trying to figure out how to get out of the bad situation, and they're getting punished for it. Talk about confusing for these poor kids. All right, tutoring, one-on-one support. I love this. I totally love this. But the problem is you can't keep a tutor or one-on-one support with these kids 100% of their day for the rest of their lives. They're going to need to learn some independence so they can actually lead a full life. Medication. Okay, a lot of times these medications, all they do is they dull the senses, or they make it so the kid has more energy to be able to make these mismatching senses match. Yeah, not a good place to be. A lot of times, if you just fix the mismatch, you don't need the medications. And I'm not saying in all cases, and definitely talk to your doctor about all this, but a lot of times you don't need that extra boost if the problem's not there in the first place. All right. And a lot of you guys have already gone through unimodal or bimodal therapy. You guys know what I'm talking about. I just use different words. Speech, OT, PT, vision therapy. All of those work with one basic sense, and sometimes they bring in the other senses. They do help, but they don't get the full picture. Okay. All right, and here's an example of that one. Okay, so the story behind this one, my little daughter right here, Rachel, she's sitting on the bunk bed. I said, hey, Rachel, go make a mess out of your room. And she says, can I? And I said, yeah, go do it. Because I want to take a picture of it. She said, okay. So it sounded like the whole room was under construction. I came back 5 minutes later, it looked like this. So she did an awesome job, I must say. All right. So I'm going to pretend that she's auditory. She's the hearing sensation, okay? All right. So here she is. She's in her room. It's all messy. She doesn't really want to do anything. She's just going to sit there and twiddle her thumbs, okay? So I bring in another sense, which would be her big sister Maggie, of course. So imagine Maggie is vision. So if auditory is not doing its job, you bring in vision. Well, vision's going to help clean up. It's going to help make sense of the world. But vision's going to start to get tired soon. And then vision's going to see auditory sitting there twiddling her thumbs. She's going to get mad. So she's going to get frustrated. She's going to get angry. And she's going to get tired. So how long do you think somebody's going to be able to sit there with one sense and be able to make up for the rest of the senses? Not very long. It ends up being extremely interesting. So let's talk about the multimodal type training. All right, this is simultaneous training. This is getting the visual, the auditory, the vestibular, and a lot of the proprioceptive also. So knowing where your body is. All of these rolled into one, completed at one time, linked together. So here's some fun facts about what each of these in its own does. And then you can see the magic that happens when you start putting them together. So if you put your auditory and vestibular together, you start to get those to integrate. This is where you actually learn how to articulate and sequence sounds, to be able to speak properly, to locate the direction of sounds, so you feel safe in your environment, you know what's coming at you, to be able to understand a conversation because you don't think the speaker is 4 feet behind the actual speaker, to be able to move with a sense of rhythm and timing, to be able to sequence events so you know one event's going to happen after another event. Okay, then we got visual vestibular linking. That's something as simple as, it's not even simple, I admit it. is catching a ball, knowing where the ball is going to be, knowing where you're going to be, and when you got to be there. All of those are extremely important. You have to link those together or you're not catching anything. You're going to be spending a lot of time going, Handwriting, knowing where to go, when to go, and to be able to think as you're doing it. Balance and center of gravity. Math concepts. Oh my gosh, math, you have got to get these two put together. You need to understand space. You need to understand time. If you don't, math is going to be a struggle. All right, visual auditory problems. That's being able to think in words and pictures, grasping abstract concepts such as etiquette, understanding that you have to wear pants when you go in public, conversation skills, knowing that there's certain things you don't want to be saying to certain people. Like, hey, I love how big your nose is. And they think they're doing great. They're throwing insults every time they talk. Relating cause and effect. Being able to understand that their actions are going to lead to a consequence that could be either good or bad. Reading comprehension. All of these need to be linked together for you to be able to understand what's on the page. Here's another one. Okay, so there's quite a few studies. If you want, just email me. I'll give you the contact information at the end. I'll give you the studies. But what they did was they did these studies on people who had certain senses missing. And they found out that the strategies that these people had after they finished developing, they were more limited strategies. This is a bad way of saying it. They were a little more immature. So say if they had problems getting their vision to help them develop, what ended up happening is they weren't able to act as a 20-year-old to be able to make a nice independent decision. They needed a lot of help from their peers. They needed a lot of extra support to be able to do what they had to do. So let's get into the treatment parts. All right, so this is the sensory learning program that I discovered to help my daughter and the rest of us. And it was developed by this lady named Mary Bowles. She had a son that had autism, but they didn't really have a good word for autism at the time. So they called her a refrigerator mom. So she went through and she did every therapy she could get her hands on. And her son kept backtracking. So she said, forget this, I'm going to make something that actually works. And that's where she actually got together with a bunch of brilliant minds from Canada, France, California, you name it, New York. She got all these guys together. And she said, okay, guys, what's going to make this stuff stick? And they said, well, the best way to do it, because studies are showing, is if you put all these senses together at the same time, you're going to get a bigger bang for your buck. And she says, well, let's do it. So she actually designed this is right 1975. And she's been perfecting it since until she passed away. And then her daughter's perfecting it. It was originally designed to help with learning and behavior problems, but the stuff it helps so much more. All right, what the program is the person would come in, because it doesn't have to be a kid. The person would come in and we would do an intake evaluation. During that evaluation, we would go over the questionnaire of what was bothering them, what was bothering the family, which senses were causing the most grief, and we would discuss what would change if we had the ability to change that. We also go through during that to see if there's any diet changes that we can help make, and anything with detoxing we can help with, anything that can help with communication with other professionals. So it's a very useful evaluation. All right, after that, if they do decide to do the program, we put them through this, the office program, which is 10 days. I said that out loud. 12 days in a row, 30-minute sessions per day. I'm getting all razzled and frazzled, sorry. Okay, after they're done with this one, they do 18 days at home with a portable light instrument. So it's 12 days in office, 18 days at home. And it's amazing. It's like lighting a fire under these kids. You never know what's going to come out of it, but it's usually better. And then we bring them in for the post-evaluations at the 1 month, 3 month, and 6 month time. Okay, some of the things that it helps. What's great about this program and makes it a little different is it connects multiple areas of the brain at the same time. So it connects top to bottom, left to right, front to back. All these neighborhoods that had a problem getting the highways put together, we would put in the highways. It engages the senses simultaneously, so you got vision, auditory, vestibular, and proprioception. What I love about it, it's in a controlled sensory environment. It's pretty much a dark room, and the kids tend to love it. A lot of parents are afraid that once the room goes dark, that their kid's going to get all scared. not the way we do it. Once they start to get, the table starts rocking, it actually goes in a big circle. As it does it, it calms them down and it settles them in. And then we have the parents sitting next to them to kind of pat them every once in a while, make sure they feel safe. All right, so you got the calm, steady rotation of the table, and they just love it. They crave this stuff. The other thing I like about this, it's a non-cognitive approach. So you don't really have to get them to do much. They only have to sit on the table, well, lay on the table, keep the headphones on their ears, and stare at a light. And then if they're highly distractible, we have toys and other tools to keep them paying attention to what they need to pay attention to. But it's not like we're asking them to do a lot of heavy lifting. They don't need a lot of motivation. So this one actually works very, very well on teenagers who won't do anything else because they got into the stubborn phase. The only thing we have to keep these guys doing is make sure they don't fall asleep. All right, and it's a relatively quick time commitment. It's amazing how quick this stuff is and how powerful it is. And that's the funny thing. Everybody hears how quick it is and they're like, well, that must not be very good. It's good. All right, it helps to jumpstart development. And what I want to say during this, it doesn't take over occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy. But boy, does it make those therapies easier. So these guys who are chasing a kid around because the kid can't pay attention, they can't understand what they need, they're now sitting still and listening to the instructor. So therapists tend to love people that come in after this treatment. It's a foundational intervention that doesn't go away. Once it's there, the kids move up to a different level. In fact, multiple different levels throughout the next months. And it has lasting results. Now, every once in a while, depending on what the goals are, sometimes we put them through the table twice or so. And yes, because I went through it 6 times just to see if anything would change. It was right around the 4th time where it was like, nah, not as big of benefits. But it's usually once. Okay, other really cool things about this program, because it ends up integrating everything, you start to feel more safe, you end up having improved fight or flight. So what happens when you're in fight or flight? Many things don't happen. You have problems digesting, resting, so sleeping, detoxing, healing, regulating your moods, keeping yourself warm or cold. All of those things take a back burner if you're in fight or flight. All of those things start to return and the person is able to self-regulate after this is over, in most cases. So some of the things that tend to get better from that we measure, no, we don't measure the bull. But this, I want you guys to know about this because this is happening to your kids, okay? They're going out there and what they're seeing of the world is about this big. They got this little, like a paper tube towel thing. And they're looking at the world through there. And say, for instance, they're like, oh, look at that cute little bull. Oh, that's so awesome. Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, no. See, waiting room. I did admit all. I swear I did. They're in. Okay. I'm going to be back to it in just a second, I swear. Okay. We should be good to go. Okay, so the big thing that ends up happening is they got this bull and they're like, oh, this is so cool. And they go and they just start walking along like it's no big deal, right? But here's the thing. The full picture is this. So in this situation, something's trying to run them over. Something that's not a cute little bull. This is something that's pretty dangerous. So each of these kids has gone through this situation before. Something that they thought was no big deal, burned. They ended up getting hurt somehow. So they made a rule for themselves. No matter how cute it is, no matter how cool it is, it's dangerous. So anytime something sneaks up on them, which it sneaks up all the time because they can't see anything very well, anytime something sneaks up, it's something to automatically be afraid of. And then they don't want to change and all that. So you start to notice as you go through this program that they have the ability to make that better. All right, other things, when you're running around and this is the only light that you're taking in through your visual system, you're not taking in the full spectrum of the colors that you need. And as you guys all know from the seasonal affective disorder and all that, we need a lot of colors throughout the day to keep our circadian rhythm going, okay? So, and then we also need it to heal, to do all the other stuff that we do. For instance, green. If you don't get enough green in your environment, you're not perceiving enough green, you're going to have problems fighting acute infections. If you don't get enough red, you're going to have problems with chronic infections and inflammation. If you have problems with blue, you're not going to build enough energy reserves. So all of those, if you're running around with the little tiny peripheral awareness there, you're going to have problems. So this is what we measure in the pre-testing and post-testing. See on the left-hand side right there, you got these little tiny squeeze spaces where they can actually sense colors. And then at the very end, everything gets bigger. Okay, improvement in visual spatial skills. All right, so what we do is we have them draw something beforehand. And this was an 8-year-old. And we said, okay, I need you to draw a dog. So there's the dog. It's a really cute dog with those cute little nails and everything. And then 3 months later, all of a sudden, he ended up being able to draw the collar, see all the fuzzy stuff on the tail. You're starting to get the detail. It's starting to actually look like a dog. Yeah. Well, the other one kind of looks like a squirrel. All right, improvements in fine motor skills. Okay, this one, she was 11 years old, and she had been in many, many years of handwriting therapy. And she would get in there and she'd get so frustrated that she'd say, forget you, I'm going to go draw a picture. Okay, 8 months after this program, she was able to actually put her thoughts on paper, on the line correctly. So many things ended up getting better on this one. Ooh, auditory. Okay, so when you're in fight or flight, we have these little muscles in our ear that help mute the sound a little bit if we're relaxed and we're getting sick of hearing that buzzing sound or that ringing sound, okay? Well, when you're in fight or flight, you can't move those muscles very well. So every sound that comes in is too loud, too irritating, too noticeable. And that's a survival thing. You got to do that because you don't want anything sneaking up on you, right? Well, this program gets them out of the fight or flight so they can start to regulate how loud things are. So those kids that are always running around and yelling at you and you can never figure out why they're always so loud, that's part of it. The kids that are always talking like this or you never understand them, that's because they're not hearing certain things, okay? And it's not just one tone. It can be multiple tones. Okay, for instance, check this out. If you look at how much we hear throughout the day, okay, anything from a truck driving down the street to the piano, dog barking, alarms, even somebody speaking, each one of these things, like the z-v, you got 300 hertz right there, versus the ch-ch, those guys are about 1100, well, about 1200 give or take, okay? If you don't have even one of those set to be hearing it at a nice level that's not irritating, everything you hear is going to be irritating. Instead of somebody speaking to you like this, it's going to hear like this, and you're just going to have a hard time processing what they're saying because you have to work around these areas that are either too sensitive or not sensitive enough. Okay, so I'm going to show you that. All right, you also don't know where they are because there's a certain way that the sounds need to come into the ears. And if those muscles are messing with you, you're going to have a hard time figuring out where the sounds are. You're also going to have problems figuring out when the sounds are. So knowing that the word came in the order C-A-T-S versus S-C-A-T. So think about this. You're trying to learn the word cats, but you hear scat. That is going to mess you up when you're trying to learn how to do your stuff. And a lot of this comes out looking like dyslexia. And what it is, it's a when processing error. So we go through, this is what some of the pre-testing looks like. Over on the left-hand side, you can see the dots, the circles, and the X's. All right, I'm almost done, I swear I am. The circles and X's, they're all over the place. And after they get through the training, everything becomes aligned. The right ear gets a lot more coordinated with the left. Improvement in balance and coordination. All right, I'm gonna go real quick through these. Ready? Some things that we have gotten better in quite a few of our patients. Multitask, communicate, relate to others, manage your time, cope with busy environments, focus, increase attention span, decrease distractibility, improve short-term memory, improve visual and auditory processing, learn new things easily, relationships, communication, time management, sleep patterns, appetite, recreation. Sleep is the first one that tends to show up. I love it. And everybody I've talked to, sleep is awesome. Emotional reactivity, self-esteem, energy level, emotional responsiveness, and reduced mobility, so you don't get the outbursts so bad. Ability to cope with stress and decrease overwhelm, which really makes it nice for the rest of the family. Very quick again. This was done on actual brain injury patients that had come through here. These were all adults, but I wanted to put it in here. It is typically right around 80% improvement on all of these. Reading difficulties, concentration, photosensitivity, headaches, spatial misjudgments, imbalance, dizziness, writing difficulties, retrieval difficulties, so saying the right words at the right time. Hyperacusis, things were too loud. Shutdown from fatigue, double vision, sleep difficulty, anxiety, and emotional triggers. Okay, oh, I got one more. I'm almost done. I was admitting somebody. Okay, so a lot of people aren't quite sure this is the program for them. So we've done many, many studies on this. The most well-organized one was 115 parents got a survey, and 92% said that they loved the program, they would do it again. 8% said they didn't see a big change. And we're starting to find out it had a lot to do with diet. If you're not willing to get the healthy food into the kid, once the kid wants to eat healthy food, it's kind of hard to get the brain to keep moving forward because you need those building blocks. But we could always do it again. Okay, mystery prize, you made it to the end. Thank you, thank you. All right, so the mystery prize, I'm gonna give you a password. When you call the office to try to hook up with this, if you can say the words raspberry lemon, when you call on the phone, we will give you 30% off of the evaluation, okay? We will also give you 30% off of the actual treatment. So get to call for details. I'll put the phone number at the end, okay? When you do this evaluation, you're gonna get more answers to why your kid is acting certain ways. You're gonna understand the small changes that you can do to make your life and your child's life easier. And this is without even going through the program. You're gonna be able to communicate with your child's needs and behaviors so others will understand. And you're gonna have the choice to resolve many of these issues from a foundational level, i.e. sensory learning program. All right, just to let you know, we also accept ESA funds. Yay. All right, just putting this out there. We can never obtain peace in the outer world until we make peace within ourselves. Okay, if you have any questions, I'm going to give you the contact information on the next slide, but you can also go to azvisiontherapy.com and just do a search for Arizona Vision Therapy Center. Okay, questions, we have phone number is 520-886-8800. Our email is visiontherapy@live.com. And there we go. All right, done. All right, so this is where if anybody has any questions, I'm willing to stick around. Did you find any questions yet? Where's the chat? Chat one. I have nothing. Okay then. I'm gonna sit here waiting for any questions. I want to put where you can see the people. Yeah. Okay, found the chat. Okay, so they can't unmute themselves. That's my bad. I am so sorry. Okay, we're gonna unmute all. I'm gonna allow you to unmute yourself. Ready? Steady. Begin.
Hey, look at that.
Hey, there it is. That didn't take too long. Sorry. Okay. Do we require a referral to be seen at your locations? No, you do not. Okay, so the big thing is all you have to do is call. The person on the phone will explain to you what you need to do. Make sure you're a good candidate, that type of thing. And they'll send you to a whole bunch of resources that you can do research on before you show up, if you want to do that. But the evaluation takes somewhere between an hour and a half. And that's where we run a lot of those pre-tests, and I get to go through those with you to show where your kid is at and what your kid's potential is. Okay. Well, that was easy. Can you think of any questions that you had before you? I have a parent here. She doesn't want to come on camera.
Just as a point of reference, if you stop screen sharing, you'll be able to see all of everyone in their little boxes.
Can I do that? Okay, so I go to new share.
No, I think it's just stop screen sharing at the top of your
Stop
screen.
share. There it is. Oh, I like Maxine's dog. That's cool. Okay, so I have a parent here who's gone through it. She stuck around and she's helping me now. I was asking her if she had anything that she had questions about. Mostly it was effectivity. Is this worth doing? Yes, this is worth doing. The funny part about it is you never know what's gonna happen. It's a grab bag, but something tends to get better. In fact, many things tend to get better. Yeah, sleep. She's definitely saying sleep is better.
Sleep, language.
Language, yes. Oh yeah. Some of them, we've had quite a few kids that came in. They'd gone through a whole bunch of speech therapy, and they were saying like 7 words, something like that. Within a couple weeks, they were up to 145 words, and they went to town. And we've had a lot of the kids, especially the ones that have stomach problems, that they're always angry and they're always hitting people, and nobody ever knows why. They start saying, well, she's bugging me. Tell her to stop. And so we're able to tell the siblings to stop, and all of a sudden there's peace in the house. It's really nice. Okay, how many sessions are needed? All right, so each one for the sensory learning program. So you have 24 sessions total, 2 per day for 12 days. And then you have the home support, which is twice a day for 18 days. So within a month, you're done. You've done your job, and then you sit back and see what happens. And it's fun. I love this job because something always happens. There are a couple that didn't happen, and yes, it was diet. So we went through and we helped the parents get the gut online, and then all of a sudden they started picking up like they're supposed to. They didn't miss anything. It just took longer for the brain to accept the new changes. Okay.
Here's a question that I think you touched on, but I always find that it's really important to clarify it. How do people pay for this service?
Yeah.
Do you accept medical insurance, for example, that kind of thing? Because that's a question that everyone will ask until the end of time.
Till the end, I know. So the ESA funds definitely. A lot of people do GoFundMe sites. We're trying to get together with some foundations. Not quite there yet, but it ends up being worth it in the end. You got to see the stuff they don't have to do after they do this. So once they prioritize this, the other stuff falls in line, and they get through occupational therapy faster, physical therapy faster, all that type of stuff. But yes, we don't take insurance, and we do that on purpose because, oh my gosh, the stuff we would have to wade through, we would end up having to charge more for the program, and it wouldn't be worth it. So, yep, but we talk you through it. We definitely don't try to hard sell you. We want to make sure you're comfortable before you go anywhere near this thing. Okay, I couldn't get on in the start. Will the whole presentation be available later? Yes, because I am recording it. Okay, there it is. We're recording it right now. There it is. That was an easy question too. But yeah, we do care credit. But the big thing to do would be the evaluation. That right there, that's worth its weight in gold, just understanding what's going on with your kid. Because there are questions that have not been answered yet. They're going around asking these questions, and the doctor's like, I don't know. Let's see what medication does. And this isn't a medication thing. Okay. We good? Okay. Do I end it?
I think if you can press the stop record button, or if you press the record button again, it will stop recording. It will